Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hi there.
Today, we're really digging into something lots of you might be wrestling with. How do you actually improve your English speaking?
Exactly. We're looking at a conversation, a really helpful one, between Alex, who's learning English, and a teacher.
Right, Alex. So Alex is doing pretty well in class, understands the grammar, but just feels stuck when it comes to actually talking. It's a super common issue.
It really is. And this chat gives some, well, very practical advice. Stuff you can actually use to take what you know in your head and get it out more confidently when you speak.
Yeah, so we're going to unpack the teacher's main ideas.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the setup is Alex missed some school, feeling worried about speaking English.
Right.
And the teacher asks about learning new word. Turns out Alex works hard, memorizes words, writes them down daily.
Yep. Puts in the effort.
But still feels like speaking isn't getting any easier.
And this is where the teacher makes, I think, a really key first point. Just holding those words in your memory. It's not enough.
Not enough. How so?
Well, think about it like this. Your brain needs practice actually retrieving those words, pulling them out to use in real sentences, real situations.
Oh, okay.
The teacher used a great analogy. It's like knowing all the ingredients for a cake.
Right. Flour, sugar, eggs.
But never actually baking it. You know what goes in, but you haven't practiced, putting it all together.
That's a great way to put it. And it connects to another point the teacher made about why a big vocabulary helps speaking, beyond just understanding.
Yes, exactly. It gives you options. Flexibility.
Flexibility.
Yeah. If you're talking and you suddenly can't remember that one perfect word, well, if you know some similar words, synonyms.
Synonyms, okay.
You can still express your idea. You don't just freeze up completely. You can find another way to say it.
Okay, so knowing more words gives you more tools to keep the conversation flowing.
Precisely. And the teacher's advice on how to achieve this is, well, it sounds simple, but it's crucial.
Which is?
You have to use the new words yourself, actively.
Not just passively memorize them.
Right. Try making your own sentences. Or, even better, try to slip them into conversations you have in English.
Okay, like the example given. If you learn gain.
Yeah, you could practice by saying, I have gained a lot of knowledge about English. Saying it makes it your word, not just something on a list.
It really highlights that just memorizing and maybe translating in your head, that won't automatically make you a smoother speaker.
No, you need that active step. Using the language.
Yeah.
Speaking it, writing it.
Okay. So moving on, Alex then asked something really fundamental. Why is listening so important for speaking better? It seems a bit indirect, maybe.
It might seem that way, but it's actually foundational. The teacher explains it beautifully.
How?
Think about how we all learned our first language. As babies, as little kids, what do we do first?
We listened for ages.
Exactly. We listened to our parents, people around us, for months, maybe years, before we really started talking properly. Language learning starts with the ears. It starts with listening.
That makes so much sense when you put it like that.
So listening to English helps you absorb the rhythm, the intonation, how sounds link together.
The flow of it all.
Yes, the natural flow. The teacher mentions things like English conversations, even movies.
Movies, yeah. Though there was a warning there.
Well, yeah, a caution. Movies are great, but you need to actually listen, not just get caught up in the story or the visuals and let the language wash over you.
So it's about active listening.
That's the key phrase, active listening. If you hear something, a word, a phrase, and you don't get it, notice it. Maybe jot it down.
And then
listen again if you can. Focus on that bit. It's not just background noise. It's about engaging with what's being said.
Right, focused listening. Okay, now another big area for learners, grammar. Alex heard from friends that, you don't really need grammar for speaking.
Ah, yes, that common idea.
What was the teacher's take on that?
Very clear.
Yeah.
That advice isn't really accurate. Not entirely. Well, you don't need to be a grammar expert knowing every single complex rule. You definitely do need a good grasp of the basics to speak English correctly.
Okay, basics. What kind of basics are we talking about? Because grammar can sound, a bit scary.
It can. But the teacher reassured Alex that these are usually the simpler concepts. Things like tenses.
Past, present, future.
Right. Knowing when to use which. And prepositions, those small but mighty words like in, on, at.
They can be tricky.
They can. Also, modals can, could, will, should, verb forms. And making sure your subject and verb agree, like he goes, not he go.
So the fundamental building blocks.
Exactly. These basics help you build sentences that other people can actually understand clearly. They provide the structure.
Okay, structure is important. Got it.
Yeah.
Then Alex brought up a very real fear practicing with friends. What if they laugh at my mistakes?
Oh, that's such a common anxiety. It holds so many people back.
Yeah. So what was the advice?
Really practical advice.
Yeah.
Try to find a friend who also wants to practice, who's also serious about improving their English.
So you're in the same boat.
Exactly. That way, you can support each other. You can agree beforehand that it's okay to make mistakes, and maybe even help each other.
Like correct each other.
Yes. The teacher suggested that. Gently correcting mistakes turns practice into a shared learning experience. It's not about judgment. It's about mutual improvement.
That sounds much less scary. Find a practice buddy.
And the teacher also touched on motivation, which ties into this.
Right, because it's easy to start strong, but then fizzle out.
Absolutely. Enthusiasm can fade. That's where discipline kicks in. Making yourself practice even when you don't quite feel like it.
Like doing homework.
Exactly the comparison the teacher made. Alex does homework to avoid bad grades. That's discipline. Same idea applies here. Sometimes you do it because it's important for your goal.
Okay. Now, reading was mentioned briefly. English books. What was the verdict there? Necessary.
Not strictly necessary, according to the teacher. It was presented more as an optional extra. A good habit if you enjoy reading.
So helpful but not essential for speaking.
Right. It can definitely expose you to more vocabulary and sentence structures, which is great. But if reading isn't your thing, it's not like you have to do it to improve speaking.
Good to know. Then the big question. How much practice? An hour a day. 2 hours.
Yeah, everyone wants that magic number.
So what did the teacher say?
Wisely, I think. They said there's no single answer. It really depends on the individual.
How so?
Depends on your capacity, how much time you realistically have, your stress levels, Pushing too hard can be counterproductive sometimes.
Okay, so it's personal.
Very personal. But the teacher did make the point that if your goal is to learn quickly, well, more practice generally leads to faster progress. Kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, more input, more output.
Right. The teacher even shared a bit about their own past, being really determined to learn to speak English, implying it took significant effort and dedication.
So more is often better, but find what works for you.
Exactly.
Okay, lastly, Alex mentioned getting advice not to use dictionaries or translators, but this teacher seemed to disagree.
Yes, this was an interesting point of contrast. The teacher in this conversation had a very clear, practical view.
Which was?
That it absolutely makes sense to use dictionaries and translators. How else are you supposed to figure out what a new word means when you first encounter it?
Good point. So use them to understand meaning.
Yes. It directly contradicts the other advice Alex got, which just shows, teachers might have different methods or philosophies, but for understanding new words, this teacher was firmly in favor of using those tools.
Interesting. Okay, so that brings us towards wrapping up. Let's quickly recap the main takeaways from this deep dive.
Sure. So first, it's vital to use new vocabulary actively, not just memorize lists. Get those words out.
Right, and listening.
Listening is fundamental. It's the base, and it directly helps your speaking improve. Active listening.
Got it. Then grammar.
Basic grammar is necessary for structure and clarity. Don't ignore it completely.
Practice partners.
Find a supportive friend who's also learning. Practice together, correct each other gently. It builds confidence.
Okay. And reading.
Optional, but beneficial if you enjoy it.
How much practice?
It varies per person, but generally more focused practice leads to faster results. Find your sustainable rhythm. And finally,
dictionaries and translators.
Yes, they are useful tools, especially for understanding the meaning of new words. Don't be afraid to use them for that purpose.
Great summary. So, thinking about all these practical tips, here's something for you, the listener, to consider.
What's one small change, just one thing, you could maybe try today to actively work on your English speaking?
Maybe using one new word you learned, or listening actively to just 5 minutes of English conversation, or perhaps texting a friend to see if they want to practice speaking sometime.
Just one small step.
Think about it. And thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.